Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ted Santos, and I tonight am doing a YouTube and chill. And at YouTube and chill, we like to get it on. And let's do that with a little bit of a beat here to bring things in on YouTube and chill. So welcome and thank you. I see you in the house, country boy. Yeah, this is a big one. It's Friday. It's Friday night. It's already dark, you know it. And we do that kind of sit back and chill and we talk about what's happening in the world. So what is that? Peach Social? Peach Social Light. Good to see you in the house. Welcome everyone. I'm Ted Santos and it's Friday. And Fridays I do a YouTube and chill. We kind of sit back and we talk about the intimacy of relationships. Love talking about sex. Love talking about how men look at sex or relationships from a very intimate perspective. And we often take on topics that are not popularly discussed. And when they are, we take a very, very counterintuitive perspective. And we're going to look at this tonight. We're going to take one story and we are going to intimately open this up and look at it from several perspectives. And some of them may not be comfortably discussed. You may call this the provocative discussion on reality topics, and we always do it from a man's perspective. But we do it kind of a sit back and chill, and we're going to enjoy this one. I always like to do a screen share. So I am surely going to share the screen. Never good for me to promote and impose my opinions or point of view. So I like to do this in a way that we can lay out the facts and then we can discuss what we actually see. Mark, just sipping. Good to see you, man. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're kind of sitting back and sipping. It's a YouTube and chill night. And we like to talk about the intimacy of relationships. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So you see the title. Title makes it self-evident, you can say. At least one perspective where we're going to come from. And so we're looking at, if you look at this, what's been hot in the news, once again, Will and Jada Smith are hot in the news. And I'm asking a question. Is Jada Smith proven the only role women need to play in society? Is that what she's showing the world? And there's always more than one title I can have for the show. So the other titles, kind of almost the same, is what do men need from women? Or why, and even why do men need women? Right? So this becomes a really good question. And is Jada showing that men need to be asking that question much more often? I mean, one way to look at this whole Jada Smith is she hasn't had the blindingly successful celebrity movie career that her husband has had. I mean, at one time, Will was the highest paid movie star in all of Hollywood, possibly in the entire world. And he earned every ounce of that. And yes, Jada's been in quite a few movies. And Will even brought her into a movie with himself when he did the Muhammad Ali movie. She was a love interest in the movie. So he has brought her in, but has she carried her own weight? So when I look at it from that perspective, I ask a question. Is what Jada's been doing with her entanglements, and now she's talking about what she can't get from her husband, hell, and you need to hear it in her words. So I'm going to play that video. What's going on, PJ? Good to see you in the house. Yeah, is she jealous, right? Or is this just a great way for her to draw attention? Because if she was not married to Will, she would be no one. But let's say she does her red table talk. Would she be relevant? Even married to Will, is she relevant? Or is this just another publicity stunt? So you have to wonder, is Will even in on it? If it was, and I'm not saying it is, but if this was all a publicity stunt, could they both, Will and Jada, be sitting back and laughing all the way to the bank? It's something you have to wonder, because why else would you be thinking about Jada? She's got me talking about her tonight. Well, why else would I be talking? I generally don't like doing things on celebrities, but this time I am going to. And you know what? We're going to look at Jada. I'm going to do a screen share. So let's see what she has to say, and we're going to start opening this up. And yes, PJ, is that what women are just here for? Procreation? Is that it? Right? She wouldn't be married. She wouldn't have that red tabletop. And if she did, where would it have gone? And hey, just Jada played in The Matrix. A lot of people may not know that Neo, when the Matrix was first written, the first person they asked to play Neo was Will Smith. He actually turned it down, and later Jada was in it. So let's do a screen share, and let's see what this female has to say.
Deeply healthy. And I
Okay, as you heard that, somebody please.
Sorry. I'm not sure how that happened.
Incredible.
It's hard.
I know. I'm
I
sure.
mean, the thing that Will and I talk about a lot is the journey. I mean, we started in this at a very young age, 22 years old.
It's crazy.
That's what.
So I don't have rights to this, fair use. I'm going to show a couple of clips. This is only for educational critique purposes. It's to open up a conversation and discuss a much bigger topic. So under fair use, I'm using this for educational purposes only. But listen to this conversation. Now, we were very young. We were 22. People were getting married at 16, not too long ago, right? For sure, in the 1940s, women were getting married at 16. My grandfather was 21 and my grandmother was 16. They married in 1940. So, how often does this happen? Now, not much, right? But at 22, this is not young. If women were getting married decades ago, when hundreds of years ago, at 16, and sometimes the guy was 16, and they made it work, you didn't have all this nonsense we're talking here. But let's see what else she says.
Why the accountability part really hit for me, because I think you expect your partner to know, especially when it comes to sex.
Right.
It's like, well, if you love me, you should know. Right. You know what I mean?
But you listen to this, and listen to a voice in the background.
If you love me, you know what I mean? If you love me,
You should be able to read
you
my
should
mind.
read my mind.
Yeah.
So, and if you saw Jada's mother shaking her head saying, So, the first time I heard a woman say that to me, I was 28, she was 26, and I was like shocked. And she was no dummy. She had an Ivy League undergrad, and she was in law school when I was at the time. We had this conversation that I should know. If I care about her, I should know. And I asked, well, will you know what I want? She said, no, it's your job to tell me. I just couldn't believe, I couldn't believe a woman could actually say those words and not be just joking around. So I'm going to play more of that, but it reminds me of something. And some of you guys may have already seen this clip I'm about to show you. It's entertaining. I'm going to finish playing Jada, but I have to play this entertaining video because some of the madness that we're seeing in the world, and even if Jada and Will are doing this as a publicity stunt, it's showing some immaturity and emotional instability that, hell, this guy will explain it best. I'll let him tell it.
The universal hot crazy matrix is everything a young hot crazy. The universal hot crazy matrix is everything a young man needs to know about women. I've developed this on my own over 46 years living on the earth. So this is how it works. You have your crazy axis and your hot axis. Hot is, as usual, measured from 0 to 10. We're all familiar with that. Crazy is measured from 4 to 10 because, of course, there's no such thing as a woman who's not at least 4 crazy. So you got.
He said, no such thing as a woman who's not a 4 crazy. I mean, is that what we say about Jada Smith? That's why I'm showing this. I mean, you guys, I know you guys, PJ, you've seen it. Many of you guys have. For anyone who hasn't, fair use, I'm showing this for educational purposes. It fits into the topic and into the question. Is Jada Smith proving the only role women need to play in society? And is this guy going to really kind of outline why there's only this one or, a couple of roles for women to play? Here we go. This guy lays it out best.
4 to 10. This is your hot crazy line right here. Very important that you keep in mind where the hot crazy line is. As a rule, this is your no-go zone. We do not hang around and date and marry women who are not, at least in our mind, a 5. So this is your no-go zone. You don't go here. We just rule this out. Life is better this way. That's the way it is. All right. Above a 5 and to about an 8 and below the crazy line, this is your fun zone. You can hang out here and meet these girls and spend time with them. That's your fun zone. But keep in mind, when you're in the fun zone, you want to move out of the fun zone to a more permanent location. Okay. So that's the fun zone above a 5, hot, below an 8, hot, and below the crazy line. This means these are most of the time not crazy. Okay. Above the danger zone, above the crazy line, we have the danger zone. This is your redheads, your strippers, anyone named Tiffany,
or anyone named Jada.
This is hairdressers. This is where your car gets heat. You get a bunny in the pot. Your tires get slashed, and you wind up in jail. Now we have some of the chart filled in. We got a couple more pieces to put in, but at this point, understand something. This is not a static environment. This is a situation where you have got to use this matrix over time to develop some reliable data. It's like a dope chart. Okay.
Hey, this is something Will Smith should have seen before he got married to Jada. Man, hell, maybe I can even stick in some compatibility, because that's a big issue of what we're seeing with Will and Jada. That's provided this is not all a publicity stunt. But this guy, he's hilarious. Even if you've seen this before, it's funny watching it again.
Okay, because at any moment in time, any woman that you have previously located on this chart can vanish from that location and appear anywhere else on the chart. So what you have to do is over time collect some data. And once you have a cluster of data points, you can begin to consider that reliable. Now,
a PJ, good one, right? Cardi B and Megan, right? The Stallion. Yeah, they cluster definitely in that danger zone, man. And if that's not who they claim they are, well, then they do a poor job of presenting themselves in public.
Moving on, you have this zone here. This is below the crazy line, above an 8 hot, but still, about a 7 crazy. This is your date zone. You can stay in the date zone indefinitely. These are women that you introduce to your friends and your family. They're good looking and they're reasonably not crazy most of the time. Okay, so you can stay here indefinitely. Now, above an 8 hot and between about a 7 and a 5 crazy, this is your wife zone. Okay. When you meet this girl, you should consider a long-term relationship. This zone is not scaled to size. This is a representation and not an actual. This is not a pie chart showing you how many of these people are out there. This is simply a representation of what you're after. You want to be 5 to 7 crazy, above an 8 hot. That's your wife zone. Okay. Now, below a 5 crazy and above an 8 hot, this is your unicorn zone. These things don't exist.
This guy is hilarious, but it's really well done.
If you find a unicorn, please capture it safely, keep it alive. We'd like to study it and maybe look at how to replicate that. Okay. So I was explaining this to a guy one time, and he said, "Wait a minute. I met this girl and she's like smoking hot. She's like at least a 9 and she's chill. She's totally cool. She's like not even a 3 crazy." I said, "You're telling me you've met a girl, she's a 9 hot and she's like a 2 or a 3 crazy?" He said, "Yeah, man, I like her a lot." I said, "You should be careful. That's a dude. You're talking to a tranny." So you got to be careful, because down here below a 4 crazy and above an 8 hot, you're probably talking to a dude. That is the universal hot crazy matrix.
First of all, if you don't have a
So I had to show that. So that gets me, when you're listening to Jada, that's what I'm wondering. Like, where is she in uh that matrix? So let's see what else she has to say. Yeah, right. Women are having too many children and coming to the table with baggage, Kendrick, and that creates all kinds of other problems, right? Yep. And why would she say that? I wondered about that. That's why I was wondering: is this really just a publicity stunt? So what else? What else do they talk about at this table?
You know what I
that's
mean?
a huge
That's a
pitfall.
huge pitfall.
No, that's a huge
Read my
mind.
mind.
Yeah, you should be able to read.
If you love me,
You should be able to
you
read
should
my
read
mind.
my.
Jada's 50. Just turned 50. I think September recently. She's 50. Like I said, when I first heard that, it was from a woman who was 25 years old. I was in my 20s also. So, I thought it was hilarious. But that woman who lived with me, I left the country. She and I left her because I left the country. I left her. She was like 2 weeks from being 30. And I think she really got that this kind of mentality was just inappropriate, immature, out of line, doesn't work. The day I was traveling, leaving the airport, the woman, who was living with me, she asked me, she said, "I don't understand how you stayed with me this long." She said, if I was with someone who did all the things I did, I would have left a long time ago. I understood that chart, like the whole crazy hot thing. I understood that, she was bringing crazy stuff that any other woman would have brought. What's going on, Red Pill Awareness? Good to see you in the house. Dimitri, what's up? We're looking at is Jada Smith proving the only role women need to play in society? Is she proving that? So we're playing a video, listening to what she said, and this part is going to be interesting because her mother's going to intervene in this.
Yeah,
You know what
that's
I mean?
a huge
That's a
pitfall.
huge pitfall.
Yeah, I hate that.
You know,
I hate
it's
that.
weird.
Weird though, it's like someone doesn't read your mind and we feel crushed. Like we feel so disappointed. Where do we get that from?
And this is interesting. This is interesting for women to say, if the guy doesn't read my mind, I'm crushed. He disappointed me. And that's when you end up with divorce, unreconcilable differences. The chemistry is gone, all these excuses. And if, it's interesting, as a man, you're responsible for reading her mind. And if you ask a woman, well, you should know what I want. She's like, no, that's your responsibility. This is once again, and this is why we're looking at this topic, is Jada proving that women are not cut out for responsibility in the way they claim, and they're in the workforce now. Except what we're seeing here is what they bring to the table. And we're looking at these women. These are not spring chickens sitting at this table saying that they're crushed and disappointed if a man can't read their mind. So, in other words, as a woman, you have no responsibility for making this relationship work. You, as a man, should be able to read my mind and know exactly what I think and what I want, and you need to be able to accommodate it, and I should be able to sit back and do nothing. Like, why would you want to even have sex with someone like that? But let's hear what else they say.
Where do we get that from? I don't know, because I don't feel like that at all. I guess, or maybe I've just grown out of it. I think.
See, I've grown out of it. So, like, how long does it take? Jada's 50. Come on. her mother is lucky here to intervene, but her mother says it great.
Where do we get that from? I don't know, because I don't feel like that at all. I guess, or maybe I've just grown out of it. I think it's like you gotta tell me what you need. Like, I can't read your mind,
Right,
because
right.
I've grown out of it too.
Yeah.
Tell me
Right.
what you need. Tell me what you want, and on top of it, I know that I have to be accountable to do the same.
And do you?
I really try.
Yeah.
Straight, direct question. Do you? The answer, she never said yes or no. I really try at 50 years old. This is that crazy hot matrix. This chick, her mother just told her the answer and still. So is this just part of what all men will find in women? Like in women in their 20s, is this really a conversation that they're expecting a man to read your mind? If you care about me, if you love me, you're supposed to know. Like, that makes you even leery to even want to have children with someone like that. I mean,
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but it's deeply healthy. And
so interesting. So there's a somewhat of a responsible way for her.
And do you?
I really try.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable,
Very.
but it's deeply healthy. And
So it's uncomfortable to actually have to express what you need in a relationship or from another human being. She says it's deeply healthy. So how do you know something's healthy and still be uncomfortable engaging in the activity that's healthy? You know, that shoots up all kinds of questions about responsibility. Like, well, hell, I think her husband says it really well. Now, he's not responding to her on this, but just listen. And this under fair use, I don't own the rights to this, but just I'm using this for educational purposes to critique. Just hear what Will Smith says.
It is not your responsibility to make your wife happy.
So that's important. He says, like, without hesitation, it's not your responsibility to make your wife happy. And so this may be the problem. So, you know, is he the designated driver in their relationship? And she's intoxicated with something that the crazy hot chick.
Right? Just like it's not my wife's responsibility to make me happy. It's my responsibility to make me happy, and it's her responsibility to make her happy, and then we're going to come together and build on that happiness.
The 50-year-old actress opens up on the latest episode of Facebook Watch's Red Table Talk, telling her mom, Adrienne Banfeld Norris, and guest Gwyneth Paltrow about the difficulties of maintaining a good sex life after all those years.
Really, at the end of the day, it's just not quitting, you know?
Of course, Will and Jada tied the knot in 1997 and will celebrate their 24th anniversary this coming New Year's Eve. They share 2 kids, 20-year-old Willow and 23-year-old Jaden. Will is also dad to 28-year-old Trey from a previous relationship.
it's
really-
hard.
I know. I'm
I
sure.
mean, the thing that Will and I talk about a lot is the journey. I mean, we started in this at a very young age, you know, 22 years old. I think
Yeah.
you expect your partner to know, especially when it comes to sex.
Right.
It's like, well, if you love me, you should know.
Right.
You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
you love me,
You should be able to read
you
my
should
mind.
read my mind.
Yeah.
You know
No,
what I
that's
mean?
a huge
That's a
pitfall.
huge pitfall.
Yeah, it is.
Jada says she's grown out of that mindset, but it can still be uncomfortable for her to express what she wants.
Yeah.
Tell me
Right.
what you need, tell me what you want. And on top of it, I know that I have to be accountable to do the same.
And do you?
I really try.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable,
very.
but it's deeply healthy.
Of course,
See, this is a problem. So as men, men have a huge responsibility to hold women accountable for the things that the woman wants and needs in life. As Will Smith said, you're responsible for making yourself happy. He's not responsible for making his wife. No man is responsible for making his wife happy. Even though we live in a country that has this slogan of happy wife, happy life, meaning the man's job is to make sure his wife is happy. No, if she's not happy as an adult, that's her responsibility. Even for a child, it's a child's job to make themselves happy. As an adult, it's your job to create an environment so that they can be able to find and express their own happiness, and not create an environment that diminishes them as a child. But it's every human being's own responsibility for however you feel. No one can make you feel anything, not happy, sad, mad, none of that stuff. Except we have allowed women to just not be responsible for themselves.
I need to make myself happy. I will present that to my wife that I need that to be happy. Divorce is not an option. We're going to be together. So we're going to figure out how to be happy.
In fact,
so it seems like he's the one that's holding this whole thing together. But once again, it does make you kind of wonder: are they, Will and Jada, just bamboozling everyone and pulling the wool over everyone's eyes, and it's just how they stay relevant and get ratings up, and they both win, right? Is that what's really happening? That they don't have these kinds of problems, but it makes for good topic, sort of table talk, because it does show a reality that actually is happening in relationships. That's a real conversation men are dealing with, that women are sitting around saying, that man you don't make me happy, you don't make me feel good, that's not your job as a man. And men need to fully understand that.
put in the work.
You can't expect it to be easy. It's like our marriage was the most difficult, grueling, and excruciating thing that we've ever taken on in our lives.
So I would say for that, if you marry someone and that is what you're experiencing, the most difficult and grueling thing that you've experienced in your life, you're incompatible. And maybe he's just trying to hold on to something that was never working from the beginning. Like that, this whole thing of compatibility. I mean, let's say this is all really happening in their relationship. The one place where they're not compatible is integrity. Like, integrity is about being whole and complete, right? So one place is your word is whole and complete. What you say you will do, you will do. What you say you won't do, you won't do, and that means your word is whole, it's complete. Yet entanglements, Jada knowing that she's responsible for what she needs and being able to communicate that, and she just tries, like, this whole idea of being having integrity about being responsible for yourself is just completely missing. Almost like she doesn't even consider integrity is important. And so it seems like Will is the one who's keeping the relationship whole and complete. Like he's the one who has the integrity to make it work.
And we're just not quitters, and by the same token we're not apathetic. So we're not going to sit there and let it be painful. We're going to keep working. And if there is a secret, I would say, is that we never went into working on our relationship. We only ever worked on ourselves individually, and then presented ourselves to one another better than we were previously.
Like those were great words. And so when I talk about compatibility, that's one of it. So if you're a man who's committed to developing yourself physically, mentally, and you meet a woman who doesn't have that commitment, it's very easy. You end up in a situation like Will is in. So, he's committed to working on himself and then presenting himself to his wife and coming together as a union, as a couple, as a team. But it seems that she's not doing that. She keeps talking about what she's not getting and she's not happy. Like, no one can make you happy. That's no one's responsibility. And so for her to be saying, I'm not happy with my husband, it's saying that it has nothing to do with him. It's her negligence for herself and not being sure how to even make that happen. Like, technically, happiness is like air. It's as long as there's air to breathe, happiness is there for you. The only way to lose happiness is to give it away, is to let someone take it from you. And there are lots of ways someone can take happiness from you. I was speaking to someone recently about how, if you have all these triggers and a woman hits your trigger and you have no way of managing yourself in the face of a trigger, then that woman owns you and your happiness. And she can just push those buttons and trigger you and just strip you away because that's what you've allowed. Like, you've given that woman so much power over your life. But otherwise, no one can take away your happiness. Even if on your worst day, you don't lose happiness. You may not get the things you want, but that has nothing to do with you being happy. And people often think happiness is about excitement. And, you hear women talk about, I want this exciting date. Show me some excitement. Show me the money. But that's not what dating is about. And that's not what happiness is about. Happiness is like that sort of contentment with yourself and who you've become and who you are constantly developing yourself to become and the things that you've accomplished, which without comparing yourself. That has nothing to do with anyone else. That's your own individual life. And if you haven't worked out how to do that, maybe, and PJ, you said it, maybe we live in this country where we teach women to compete with their men. So maybe Jada's got this competition with her husband and she's unhappy because she hasn't created a career. She hasn't been the highest paid actress in Hollywood. So if she's competing and comparing herself with her husband, she would constantly have this experience of unhappiness because she's competing with her own husband. If that's the case, I mean, God, that's another sign of what we call the red flag of incompatibility. Good question, PJ. What did he see in her, right? And he was married to someone else. What's going on, Lopez? Yep, swapping knowledge, PJ. I mean, country boy. Yep, but that requires like clear communication. Hey guys, if you haven't smashed that like button, this is a good time to do that. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Hit that bell and share this. This is a conversation. Even married men need to be in this kind of conversation because a lot of men have been just raised to believe it's their job. The things that Will has said so far, it's good. I don't know if he's always been in that kind of space, but it's good that he's in a space that he knows he's not responsible for her. I want to see something. Like, you cannot be responsible for another adult. That's obscene.
School, sixth grade, had the craziest sex ed.
Oh, right. I saw this. Yeah. She's just going to talk about sex ed and how they, in 6th grade, taught her 6th grade children about sex, and they handled the uncomfortable conversations. That's what she's going to talk about. So the question is there a role that women were naturally designed for? You know, we hear all this stuff about women can do anything a man can do, but better. Yet in the state of Texas, they just banned trans boys competing in girls' sports. So that wipes out this whole notion of equality, right? So boys and girls are not the same. And so, yes, you can say, well, that's the physical, but, you know, it is the physical, it's biological. Even when we look at the way a woman's brain works. And I know exactly what I want to show you. Sorry, I didn't have this here. This should be it. You guys have seen this before. So on one hand, we can look at the crazy hot chick in the metrics, and we can say, oh, this is horrible. Women are acting crazy. Except on the other hand, and some of you guys have seen this, I really have to show it again to reinforce. On the other hand, women's brains do not function like a man's. Very interesting. Oh, interesting. They shut down my IG Live. Very interesting. Hey guys, if you haven't smashed that like button, smash that now. So women more active brains than men, according to science. So this is the World Economic Forum. This is not an opinion. Women's brains are significantly more active in many more regions than men's brains, according to new research. The findings could help explain why women are more vulnerable to anxiety, depression, insomnia, and eating disorders, right? So when you look at that one sentence here, and you look at Jada's behavior and her saying, I'm not happy, the findings could help explain why women are more vulnerable to anxiety, depression, insomnia, and eating disorders, right? So the anxiety, I'm not happy, depression, I'm not happy, I'm not getting what I want. That's what we're seeing with Jada. So the study by scientists at Amen Clinics in California is the biggest brain imaging survey to date. It compared over 46,000 brain scans from 9 clinics and analyzed the differences between male and female brains. Understanding these differences is important, the researchers say, because it helps to shed more light on how brain disorders affect men and women differently. So 46,000 brains, that's more than a good sample. I mean, 10,000 is a decent sample, 17,000 is an ideal sample, and this is about 3 times more than an ideal sample. And it was in 9 different clinics, so it's, you know, not just one place, different places. Means different people engaged in this and looking for this. And they essentially took a man and woman, had them in a room, had them hooked up to brain imaging scans, and had them dealing with the same scenarios at the same exact time in the same place. And what they saw was women's brains were active. In other words, women added stuff. They made up stories in their head, and usually were negative. Usually like some sort of survival, like fear-based, to survive. So women make up stories that create fear in their head that have nothing to do with what's actually happening. And then you get situations like this with Jada. You get women who will make problems in a situation, and then they create solutions with a brain that's already erratic and going in all these different directions. This is biology. This is not patriarchy. This is not discrimination. This is just empirical evidence. This is fact. So I'm bringing this up because it points to why it points to why women would actually be more inclined to say a man is responsible for making me happy. You didn't make me happy. You didn't make me excited, because women are already finding problems with things when there's no problem. It's almost like, and this is just my perspective, it's almost like women go out into the world and a man goes out. Men feel, because we're physically stronger, and we have the biochemistry that is designed to support us in the face of danger, right? So we'll handle it. But women don't have that same biochemistry. So their brain is scanning the world looking for something wrong, and they're looking to always protect and be safe, because they don't have the same physical prowess that a man does to handle himself. So a man knows the situation comes up, I'm going to handle it. So he walks about the world taking care of his life. And women are constantly scanning, looking for something wrong. So that mindset doesn't just go away just because she's in a relationship and everything is fine. You know, you can have a woman in a relationship and she's terrified because nothing's wrong. She's waiting for the other shoe to drop, you know, especially if she comes out of a dysfunctional household. So, you know, you talk about compatibility. You know, these are things men have to look at. But when we start talking about putting women in the workforce and you have all of these things happening, you see, there's no such thing as a woman that functions in an intimate relationship one way, and then she goes to work and becomes a completely different person. Granted, there is training for women that will get them out of a certain behavior, and the training says this behavior is unacceptable. At the same time, that woman is the things that trigger her at home in her relationships are the same things that will trigger her at work. So she's essentially the same person, because there's no man or woman that peels down, you know, takes off this layer like Superman going into the phone booth and takes off a layer of a mindset and behavior. They take it off, peel it, unpeel it, go to work, and then zip back up and put it back on to go home. No, you're the same person at home and at work. The same things that trigger you at home trigger you at work. So if we look at how women's brains operate, and they're creating this kind of chaos because they have insecurities and uncertainties that have nothing to do with men, when they go to work, the same thing, the same brain is following them to work. So, you know, you guys have seen me do a video on how, according to the Department of Labor, women are less productive than men. But yet in their minds, they've made up this story that they are equal in doing the same job as men. They just are not. There are some jobs, let's say in manufacturing, where because of the women have smaller fingers, they are more nimble and capable of doing certain things. I think in Denmark, they found that women were much better and quicker and more nimble filleting a fish than men were. However, when it came, and because these were smaller knives and the fish were, you know, smaller and, you know, better for smaller hands. But when it came to being a butcher with a much bigger knife, the women were significantly less productive than men. And this time, the size of their hands and their strength worked against them. So there are times when women can be more productive in certain jobs, whether it's assembly line or like I gave, fillet and fish. So when it looks at being a doctor, women don't want to put in those long hours that the male doctors do, so they're less productive. Same with attorneys. I showed a video with Jordan Peterson, who was involved in a study and research, finding that a lot of female lawyers quit in their early 30s because they want to be partner. They just don't want the responsibility that comes with being a partner in a law firm. So, and being a partner in a law firm requires you working 80 hours and you have to bring in clients. Women don't want that job. So this is essentially what we're seeing in relationships. Women don't want the job of their own happiness. They don't want the job of their own sexual fulfillment. That is the man's job, to be able to do it all. They want to work in companies that are established by men, and then they want to come in and sit at the table and not have to perform and produce the same results as men. They just want to be entitled. So is that what Jada is showing us? That she's entitled to having her husband read her mind. I'm entitled to you giving me what I want without me having to ask for anything. I don't have to perform. I don't have to produce anything. I'm entitled to it. And then you bring that same mentality to the workplace. Is this why the cost of living has gone up so high? I did a video on this. We looked at workplace productivity in the United States from 1948 until 1968. It was 108%. Then from 1969 until 2015, it's dropped down to 69% of workplace capacity, meaning women are not as productive. The more women we put in the workforce, the less productive the overall workforce is, which means companies are subsidizing less productive employees, meaning they have to raise their prices. And that means the cost of living goes up. And women don't understand the economics. Once again, not wanting to be responsible. See, this whole notion of being responsible. And so, yeah, hey, PJ, that's a good point, right? So Will accepted that. So he's, that's why I said when he was talking about how it's not my responsibility to make my wife happy, it's hers to make herself happy. Has he always seemed that, or was he the guy busting his butt to make her happy? Because that's what's happened in corporate America. We've busted our butts to give women all these opportunities because they made the claim they can do anything a man can do, but better. And they haven't produced. They haven't produced the results that they promised. Yet, but what we've done is opened the door for entitlement. So as we've dropped workplace productivity as a nation, we've increased women's entitlement. And so if you think about countries like China, that is really clamping down on any notion of diminishing manhood. They're going to teach boys about masculinity. They have shut down and censored any woman who's a feminist. Any media that shows men in a pejorative way, it's banned. That sounds like a country that's beefing up its ability to compete globally. And that means they're going to have to be very smart about how they look at the workplace. Because if you just look at the facts, this article that I have here about women's brains being more active and women having more fears and worries and anxiety and depression and because their brain is looking at the world this way, and men's brains are not. We're going direct to it and solving problems, getting things done. Because of the differences in biology between men and women, does that mean China is about to maximize wherever women are best positioned, they're going to put them there? You know what? There's some sales positions that women can do very well, actually better than men in some cases. It may be easier for them to create trust with a male buyer, let's say, because we're taught to have a level of trust for our mothers. So if China is really setting the stage to be a more effective global competitor and a global superpower, they will make it very difficult for any country to catch up to them. Because if they say, okay, these are the positions where women work better than men, we'll fill those positions with women. And these are positions where men are better. And then there are some positions where it's just the best person wins, right? And listen, I know there are outliers. There have always been women who are outliers. And if you can go back decades, hell, what is that woman? Madam C.J. Walker, back in the 1800s, worked for a female company, hair care products, and it was a female founded company, and that female was already a millionaire before Madam C.J. Walker. So, and Madam C.J. Walker later became a millionaire. So, those are examples of outliers, but that's more than 100 years ago, which shows that there are women who are outliers. They earned their keep. What we have now is women who are entitled and want to be treated like outliers. And there's where the problem is. So if we get back to this Will and Jada, it doesn't sound like she's proving herself to be an outlier. And PJ, you asked a great question. What did he see in her? We don't know. Clearly, he did not do a great job of interviewing her to make sure she was qualified to be his wife. And maybe all of this is for nothing, and this is all a great publicity stunt. It's bringing publicity even to their children, who haven't proven to be very talented in their own right, I'll say. Yes, PJ, and so he's saying divorce is not an option. So he's the thread keeping it together. So if this is not a publicity stunt, he's the one with integrity to keep things whole and complete. And maybe he's being a man now, and it seems like he wasn't, because he let things just run off the rails. And you see where they are now. I mean, does that work for anyone? I saw, let's see. I'll show you an FYI in a second. I want to share an article about women's happiness. This is by the Brookings Institute. Brookings Institute, pretty well-known think tank. Are women happier than men? Do gender rights make a difference? It says in a 2000, let's see. In a 2013 study of happiness and gender based on Gallup World Poll data for 160 countries, and I explored that basic question, women around the world report higher levels of life satisfaction than men, but at the same time report more daily stress. And while this finding, so listen, they report more daily stress. So I just outlined that stress is self-induced because of the way their brains work. Women are constantly under stress and anxiety, even when nothing's wrong. You could have the perfect guy. He has all, like Will has plenty of money, right? He's not a poor guy. He's in that top. He's not even 1%. It's less than 1%. Like he has the kind of money of the 0.5%. You could say 1%. And still she's stressing out and not happy. And I'm not saying money is the solution, but that is a thing that is a big deal to women. So she's got that one covered. Men are willing to sacrifice themselves to take care of their families. Women, not so much. And they'll claim they do that if they're single and have children. But just for the record, there are a lot of women dying before age 60. And being overweight is a catalyst. It's one of the catalysts that causes many other problems. This article goes on, while this finding holds across countries on average, it does not hold countries where gender rights are compromised, such as the Middle East. So in this same article, they found that women, the gap between men and women and women's let's see. This same article found that women in the Middle East were happier than women in the Western world. Isn't that funny, right? So, one of this, it's saying that women's rights improve, their life satisfaction levels will increase. Yet while women's rights undoubtedly improve with a host of changes that occurred during the 1970s, there's a paradox of declining female happiness in the decades after gender rights improved, as found by Betsy Stevenson and Justin Wolfers. And so they discovered a similar pattern in Switzerland, one of the last wealthy countries to give women the right to vote in 1971. So, this is interesting. So women are saying they want all these rights, but it hasn't given them the happiness that they claim that they want. So this is interesting. Women in the Middle East are happier than women in the Western world. And women's rights didn't give women the happiness that they anticipated. Oh, interesting, PJ. His ex-wife was better looking. Really interesting. So here's something that's, I think is funny. I wanted to share this just as kind of funny. According to a study, women are actually happier with less attractive men. There are many elements to a successful relationship. Pretending to listen in bed when you've actually been engrossed in your phone for half an hour, for example. When it comes to looks, however, most of us are resigned to the fact the other sex are only looking for and happy with the best looking person available. Not the case. According to a new study from Florida State University, which has found relationships are more likely to be successful when the woman is better looking than the man. Researchers analyzed 113 recently married couples in Texas in their late 20s. Evaluators from Southern Methodist University and Florida State University rated couples by their attractiveness, though why they were trusted with the arbiter's good looks is anyone's guess. Couples were also given a questionnaire about their desire to remain in shape and attractive. They found that in instances where the man was less attractive, he was likely to compensate with acts of kindness like presents, sexual favors, or extra housework. They saw a pattern in that this made women happier and feel much more appreciated, therefore strengthening their relationship. Interesting. So basically, women are looking for guys, and perhaps that is what Will Smith did in the beginning of his relationship, and it still didn't work. So in the women's mind, the husbands seem to be basically more committed, more invested in pleasing their wives when they felt that they were getting a pretty good deal. However, when the roles were reversed, the men were rated as more attractive. The results from women's surveys suggested the pressure they felt from having a hot husband made them unhappy, leading to dieting and an obsession with exercising. Commenting on the study, researchers Tanya Reynolds said the results reveal that having a physically attractive husband may have negative consequences for wives, especially if those wives are not particularly attractive. The research suggests there might be social factors playing a role in women's disordered eating. So I just showed an article that showed that stated women suffer more from eating disorders because they worry about things. But if you have a husband that's attractive, what the article is saying, you can't just let yourself go. So with a guy who's unattractive, he should be happy just to have you because you're more attractive than he is. That's getting back to this irresponsible thing. So a woman's happiness is for hormones. In some way, you could say that about anyone. So, we have all kinds of hormones and chemicals that go off and cause us to feel good, which technically that's not really happiness because the same way we judge love, these biochemicals go off and we believe it's happiness. It's just not. 1 second, guys. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, it's happiness is not predicated on some external. I'll say something silly in a second. Most people depend on something outside of them to. Once again, I'll say, just like love, happiness is not predicated on feelings. We've been taught that. I'm going to share a word. The ancient Greeks had a really good idea about this. They called it eudaimonia. Let's see. I'm going to drop it into the chat. There's a word. It's called eudaimonia. And the ancient Greeks used this word. A lot of people will misinterpret it and say that it's happiness, and it's really not. What eudaimonia is, it's the state of being that you get yourself to, except you get there by your own effort. Like it has nothing to do with anyone else. So, and so in ancient Greece, they saw going for happiness as being much too shallow. What they would say is to go for eudaimonia, because to get to a state of eudaimonia required you to accomplish something. And not saying I can tie my shoes unless you're 2 years old. Eudaimonia required you to work on something and overcome some obstacles and be successful. And that got you in. And so what that did is allowed you to find a new level of expression in yourself. So you were able to accomplish something that normally you wouldn't, and now you have, and that gave you this whole new person that you've become in the process, and that would get you to this state of eudaimonia. And as you see, that has nothing to do with another person. A love relationship couldn't do that unless, I'm saying this and being light, unless you made a promise to yourself to have sex with your woman for 5 or 10 hours straight, and you accomplished that, and what you had to do to get to that level of fitness is what allowed you to get there. So you could say eudaimonia is somewhat of a selfish state, but it's personal. It's very personal. But it's not depending on how you feel, because you could literally trigger biochemicals in your body just by sitting down right now and saying, I'm so happy, I'm so happy, I'm so happy, if you keep repeating that, what you're going to have is this experience of being happy, and you've done nothing. That's how easy it is to become happy. So when I hear someone like Jada say, I'm not happy, then there's something else going on there. And then when you ask her, well, did you, have you outgrown this thing of believing that you're a man in your life is supposed to read your mind? Well, her answer is, I tried. And perhaps if most women were honest, they would have the same answer. Well, I tried and it didn't work, and I still didn't get what I wanted. See, this whole notion of happiness, and I love the way the ancient Greeks used this word eudaimonia. If I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, that's why I put the spelling there. And it's interesting, EU and eudaimonia in Portuguese, eu is how you say I. When you say I, myself, when you're saying I am, eu. So there's this self responsibility in eudaimonia. And so in a relationship, if you don't have a capacity to accomplish something and get yourself to this state of being, then you're going to enter a relationship looking for the other person to do that for you. Very irresponsible. So now imagine going into the workplace with that same idea. And and I'll say the same thing about this notion of being respected. So many women are in the workforce and they say, well, you're only doing this to me because I'm a woman. No, you're getting a bad annual review because you were not that good. You were not good at resolving conflict. You didn't handle pressure well. You had to leave. You took 60% more sick leave than the men in the same position. You took breaks more often, and then the woman says, well, I'm a woman, and I have my menstrual cycle, or I have a child, so I had to take sick leave. So how do I pay you the same equal salary if you're not performing the same? You don't want to work the same hours. You don't want hell, I told you guys, World War II, women had to increase the working hours overtime, and their accidents increased 150%. This is a problem. So does that mean if we strip it all down and we get down to men and women, there's no civilization known to my knowledge that was built by all females. None. Aside from Hollywood and Wonder Woman and any other TV show, that's what women have. Someone sent me a Wonder Woman thing because they didn't like. They said I'm from the Stone Ages, and that's fine. Yes, me man, you woman. But if we strip it down, do we start to see that women were designed to play a role? There's this anxiety, depression, insomnia. They're more comfortable being married to a less attractive man because then they don't have to be as responsible for their physical and mental health. In which the word they won't say, there's more competition. So if she doesn't take care of herself, some other woman is going to step in. So now they have to be responsible for caring for themselves so that they remain attractive to this man they find attractive. Takes that, what they call pressure. It's not pressure. They're just making up this story in their head. Why not have great health and mentally and physically? So if we start stripping this down, do we see that women really are honestly made here to serve men, have children, and that's it? If you want to work, we'll find a job for you where women are better than men. But is that really the major role? Is that it? And why would any woman be insulted by that? I mean, if you take care of your man, he takes care of everything else. Why wouldn't you want to educate and prepare your children? What company in the world could have something more important than your own children? Interesting. Yeah. Hey, look, if you I, you would have to work hard to make this not work. If you just sat there, I'm so happy, I'm so happy. If you keep just saying that, man, I'm telling you, say it for 30 seconds. If you say it for a minute, you're going to have this like sensation, and you've done and accomplished nothing. That's how far happiness is from each person. That you literally sit there and say, I'm so happy, I'm so happy. But your country boy, you're saying they use other affirmations to be successful. There are some actions. So you notice me just saying, I'm so happy, I'm so happy. I've actually, aside from thinking and speaking, and thinking is an action, so is speaking, but I really took no actions to create happiness, right? So when we talk about the word eudaimonia, you actually have to be in action to actually accomplish something so that you get into a state of being. It's a state of being because no one can take that accomplishment, especially when you've gotten over obstacles, right? As children, we have this experience because learning to tie our shoes, learning to feed ourselves, learning to speak. I mean, we have this as constant as children. As adults, we kind of believe, well, I got this covered. And perhaps this is where we end up with, well, I've reached the pinnacle of what it means to be a human. There's nothing more for me to accomplish, so someone make me happy. And it's never someone else's job. Just keep saying, I'm so happy, I'm so happy. I promise you, it will work wonders, man. It's funny. So are women really designed to have babies? Is that it? To serve men. You guys have heard me talk about the Mongolians with Genghis Khan. Women took care of men and men took care of everything else. They did. The men ate the best of everything. They had the best horses. If you wanted men to be warriors and really take care of everything else, and you still see that mindset existing in Mongolia and China. And there are Chinese that will come here to the United States and you see the women who are waitresses, watch how they take care of the men before they take care of the women. The mindset still exists. Yes, and China and Mongolians did crush the Chinese. They crushed everyone. So is this the big pill that's uncomfortable for women to swallow? And if China goes down this path of maximizing workplace performance by putting people in the best positions, like meritocracy, right? That's what Genghis Khan was about. When he conquered other lands that were not Mongolian, he didn't care if you were Mongolian or not. He put you in the position that you were best at. And if you were the best, if you were Russian or Chinese, and you were the best in that position and served in his military, or you were put in that position. Is that where China is about to go right now? And if they maximize and put masculine men in positions where those men will thrive, and then put women in positions where they thrive, and the women who are outliers get to play where they want to play, but you have to be an outlier, not entitled. If China does that, and the U.S. continues this to give women and to give into an entitlement of women, we will not be able to compete. We will not be able to compete with China. And if any other state follows China, we will get crushed in the marketplace by productivity alone. We're getting crushed with healthcare costs because the amount of doctors we have to hire when we have more female doctors just pushes healthcare costs. Those women don't want to put in the same kind of time and effort as men. So at some point, are men going to have to sit back and look, if we really want to continue to be a global powerhouse, will we have to what we call restructure the workforce and say meritocracy only? If you don't meet this certain standard, if you don't work, if you don't produce, if you don't put in these hours, you don't belong in this position, which I think that's great, because then it gives women an opportunity to create their own table instead of begging men to sit at a table built by men. Women can build female-only companies and show us what they have. And they can be happy and not be suppressed, and they won't have to worry about sexual harassment in the workplace. They can have female-only companies. And if you guys didn't know, I forget the name of the island. There's an island off the coast of Finland that has been designated female only. So for the women who don't like the notion that the United States at some point will have to become more productive, and you will have to put more men in positions where they excel, if women don't like that, they can always go to this island off the coast of Finland. It's designed for females only. What's going on, Imperator? Yes, I don't know how long you've been in the house, but we looked at Jada and how she said verbatim, I expected my husband to be able to read my mind. And it's devastating. Gwyneth Paltrow was on, and they both said it's devastating when a man does not read your mind and give you what you want. Jada's mother was there to save the day and said, I don't think that way. Or she said, maybe I've outgrown it. And Gwyneth Paltrow asked Jada, well, have you outgrown that? And she said, I try. So, this whole notion, and so that concerns me. We're talking about responsibility in life and how that translates to being responsible in the workplace, and how does that affect workplace performance? Like, women believe just because they have a menstrual cycle, it's okay to take off from work or need to take more breaks. Because you have children, you can take more sick leave. I mean, that's irresponsible. Yes, PJ, exactly. And there's where the problem. Men started dancing to a woman's tune. It's difficult to be competitive. Women don't have the biochemistry to have that kind of aggressive competitiveness. Women compete. Listen, a lot of guys think women get dressed up to look sexy for men. They are competing with other women. The fact that you may have money is inconsequential. You just happen to be a beneficiary, but they are competing to outdo other women, and they're not doing it for men. They're doing it to make other women look silly, to say, I won. It's really not even for a man. And yeah, country boy, exactly, right? So that was the original role of women. So they wanted to abandon that and say they can do what men can do. And listen, the jury is in. Women have not performed like men. They just haven't. The statistics, the Department of Labor, the stats are everywhere. And Imperator, there was, you guys may have heard me talk about this. There was a prison experiment. They did it with men back in the 70s. And they took college students and they made a portion of them guards and another portion were the inmates. And it went for a little while. It didn't make it as long as they anticipated because it got out of control, right? People were power hungry. But what they did see is the guards cooperated with one another, the inmates cooperated with one another, so there was cooperation. They did the same exact experiment with females, and it crashed out the gate. The women would not cooperate. And what they found is that the biochemical oxytocin doesn't allow women to deal with stress and pressure, confrontation, anxiety. It doesn't let them deal with it very well. So they couldn't collaborate the way the men do. Men have, for one, testosterone blocks the flow of oxytocin, and we have vasopressin. And these allow us to confront, to deal with confrontational issues and even be able to collaborate, to come together, to go towards it. So if you put women on that island only, like you said, nothing will get done. And they'll blame men, right? And they'll have to mine their own gold and copper and silver and coal and drill their own oil. They'd have to do work. They would be oppressed by work at that point. Turned out by the pirates. That's right. The pirates will show up on that island. Well, it's off the coast of Finland, so they probably still beg for handouts, right? So they haven't proved they can do it on their own. And it's not even publicized. I don't know why. And you know what, PJ, and that there's a problem, right? So I last night someone sent me a text saying that in that app, the Clubhouse, there was a group of people talking about my book, and I hopped in for 10 minutes because I had another podcast. This was yesterday, so I hopped in, and I was talking about how arranged marriages worked so well because it was compatibility of family values. So two families had to come together to make sure they were compatible in order to understand if the couple were compatible. And one of them was, one of the things I said is, a man can smooth talk a woman and tell her anything, except he won't be able to do that with her father, her uncles, and her grandfathers. So women are not really as qualified for choosing a mate as they believe they are. So what they do is they meet one guy and they choose the wrong guy for the wrong reasons, and then they have this belief that all men are like this, and they end up sabotaging. And they meet the guy who really is good, and they kill that off too. Yeah, China has a huge army, right? And they're technologically advanced also. That's another thing. I mean, if China could send 1 million men to the United States to fight. And if we killed all 1 million, they'd send another million. And if India joined them, India would send 1 million. Same thing. We'd have to drop a bomb. And they have a very different mindset. We have some tough training. You look at Navy SEALs and Green Berets and the Rangers. We have some really tough guys, but at the same time, we live in a culture that, it's why we had to drop a bomb on Japan. That Japan was a samurai culture in World War II. Kamikazes, these guys were relentless. And we don't have that kind of culture. Like, they learned to fight with nothing to lose. So we have too many soy boys, and everyone we're worried about everyone. Did I get a trophy kind of thing? And that's the entitlement. That's what it's like. Women want a trophy. They believe they should get a trophy just for showing up. I showed up. I'm here. You should be happy I'm here. I'm doing you a favor. Now, imagine that mentality that they don't unpeel, they don't get rid of when they go to work. I'm here and you should be happy. So I should be able to leave early. I should be able to take my sick leave. I have menstrual cramps. I can't work. I need to go take a break. They're dealing with anxiety. They're making decisions. And like I showed you, that those neuroimaging, women deal with a lot more stress and anxiety. When you look at women as managers, when it comes to creating a good team and a nice environment, women actually perform better than men. When it comes to dealing with problems, which is the real reason you need a manager in place, because the buck stops with the manager. He's the one who has to solve the big problems. Women significantly underperform men when it comes to dealing with stress, problems, chaos. They don't deal with confrontation as well as men do. And it only gets worse if they attempt to mimic what they see men do. It just gets worse. So the workplace doesn't benefit. And there are most women interviewed. This is another thing. Most women interviewed would prefer to have a male boss than a female boss. So there's another problem. I mean, that just creates creates unproductive workplace performance across the board. Exactly, Imperator. Trophies are only for you. You win. Listen, in the Olympics, I love it. You get the gold. That's it. You get the silver and the bronze, second and third. And if you came in fourth, even though you are a great world-class Olympic athlete, you got fourth place, you get nothing. Nothing. Hell, even the people who try out for the Olympics are excellent athletes. You can't take that away. But they didn't make it. And only one person gets the gold. Well, and this is the other thing. So men have the biochemistry to be aggressive, competitive, confront, deal with confrontation, take it head on. If you guys remember that movie Patterns I showed you, it was an excellent depiction of what happens when you have men only in the boardroom and how they engage one another. Women complained and said that's not female friendly. Well, the companies were designed to excel and to compete with others. That's not a female friendly environment. It's just like that's like, imagine if they do this in the military and say, well, you need to make the military female friendly. We can't compete. It's unfair that the enemy is shooting at us, or whatever the excuse is. I mean, technically, we drop standards for women to get into the military, to the police, to the fire department. Women are constantly asking us to make concessions and give them special privileges. So you beg to get into the workforce, and now that you're there, you want maternity leave, you take more sick leave, you need time out for your menstrual cycle. You need to deal with not feeling good. You want us to be emotionally intelligent as opposed to being intelligent and getting the job done. You want us to now deal with your feelings. And so try to say, well, men, you're abusing yourselves because you're not dealing with your feelings at work, men. And everyone should get a trophy. No, that's not what corporations were made to do. It's off the coast of Finland, country boy. I forget the name of it. You should be able to just Google. I don't know if it's only Finnish women. I'm assuming it's open to any women in the world who want to go there. Yeah, it's unfortunate. So men have danced to the tune of women in the workplace. We've made it more friendly, which means we make the company less competitive and less productive. And as you guys have heard me say, if that means we have to raise prices because we're subsidizing less competitive and less productive workers. How do you exist? I mean, it's truly irresponsible to run a company that makes no profits. You'll be out of business. It doesn't matter how good your product is. So if you you look at the company Bugatti, look at the craftsmanship that goes into that car. If you sold that car for $10,000 because you wanted everyone to own a Bugatti, you would be out of business. You couldn't afford the parts, the kind of quality employees that you have. It would be irresponsible to sell a Bugatti for $10,000. It just would. Hell, I mean, don't the tires cost almost that much money? So to run a business, it is imperative that you are profitable so that you can invest back into the business. You can invest in your employees and develop them. You can invest in R&D and create new and better products. I mean, look at the Bugatti again, 1,000 horsepower. Isn't it up to 1,500? I mean, when it was at 1,000 horsepower, the CEO was like, hey, man, you got to find some way to get more horsepower. And they did. They got 200 more horsepower, so 1,200. But I think they're working on or accomplished 1,500. I mean, hell, look at Tesla, the company Tesla. That guy, he's profitable, and look what he's done. He's got the fastest 0 to 60 car. Who would ever expected an electric car can go 0 to 60 than any other performance car in the world? It's amazing. It raced the McLaren. The McLaren eventually caught it, but out the gate, the Tesla, man, it got the jump. But that's because those companies are profitable. They're able to invest back in a company. They're able to invest in hiring quality people, training their people to be better, putting quality products, testing, R&D, innovation. So if you're going to continue to run companies that way, where you invest back in, if you're unprofitable, you can't do that. You become the dinosaur and you die out. You die out. I mean, a lot of people don't know, if you look at the horse and buggy companies in the 1800s, 1700s, when they had them, a lot of those horse and buggy companies became automobile manufacturers. And what they were doing was using the chassis from the horse and buggy to build automobiles. The companies that didn't make that transition, as you can imagine, they eventually became obsolete because they couldn't run a profitable business. There weren't enough people buying horse and buggies. They were buying Henry Ford's, what it was, $600, $500, $400 auto. By the mid-20s, he was $247 for his Model T. That made the horse and buggy obsolete. Now, when I go over into Manhattan, I'm in New York City, you see the horse and buggy at Central Park. There are quite a few of them there. But that's more of a tourist attraction, right? That's entertainment. People don't get around New York City on a horse and buggy. So if companies want to continue to invest in innovation and top employees and marketing and sales, they have to be profitable. And if you keep hiring employees who are unproductive, who are less productive, if you hire the least productive workers in the workforce, you have to subsidize those unproductive workers. And you can't train a woman out of her biology. So if women don't handle stress and longer hours, more productive behavior and mindset, you can't train that out of them. So does that mean we get back to what were they designed to do? I mean, women say they're nurturing, right? So why aren't you home having children? Kickboxing friendly. Yeah. Well, who is that? Didn't some guy who's trans man, he went into the MMA and he split the skull of a woman? Yeah, and here, yeah, Japan was still samurai culture, 100%. Those cats were in, yeah, some of those cats in World War II were still carrying samurai swords, man. Those cats were vicious. So so I did this show because, one, hey, Will and Jada, is this all publicity stunt? And they're just trying to keep Jada relevant? If it's not a publicity stunt, then Jada's showing a huge amount of irresponsibility that's saying, I want my husband to read my mind. And so that, if that's, listen, I'm willing to bet the overwhelming majority of women in their 20s have the same exact mindset. This is what fairy tales and Hollywood love stories, the chick flicks do for women. They come into relationships expecting everything. They use words like magic and chemistry. It just magically happens. And as a man, that's your job. That's how you prove you care. Well, if we put that mindset in the workplace, how does that work? It doesn't. So we are making our country less productive. But if we could get women who are truly committed to raising their children and preparing them to be the most productive citizens, as opposed to outsourcing that to some nursery where they don't even care about your children. And hopefully mothers do care about their children, unless they've got some hormonal imbalance, then we know that's a problem. They end up killing their children or abandoning them or abusing them. So were women really designed to work in the way that they are doing? Or were they designed, do men have to get back to reality? Are we going to truly discover why the Greeks said, hey, you're property, and that's the way it goes? There are limits to what you can do. But women still did have power. No one wants to talk about it in ancient Greece because most men went off to war, and that left the women to run the household while he was in the battlefield. So women have been given responsibilities throughout time, but if women are not trained by their father or some man in the workforce, they're going to bring all the stuff that we're seeing. Like, look at Jada. She's a professional actress, and still, with all the professionalism she has, she's still not happy because she hasn't discovered responsibility. And if you put irresponsible people in the workplace, you will be unprofitable in time. So is this what men have to, is this a reality that men have to come to collectively and then start making some tough decisions so that we can be more profitable and more competitive in the global marketplace? You said tune? What is that? iTunes magic? In tune. Oh, yes, in tune. Yes, you're supposed to be in tune with me. No question. Yeah, yep. So this is what I wanted to put on the table. Not the most prettiest conversation for people to have. Apparently, Instagram didn't like it. They shut me down in the middle of this today. I was live on IG, so I don't know if they closed my account. I'll find out later. But anyway, hey guys, if you haven't shared this, share it. This is a conversation. This is a conversation for men to be having, to be thinking about. If you haven't smashed like, smash it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, do that. I love the comments from you guys. You keep me thinking, and I appreciate that. Yeah, hey, right. If we get too soft, right? So what does that mean? Someone's going to come over and just crush us. PJ, yeah, failed, especially she's failed if she's comparing herself to her husband. I mean, Will Smith was the highest paid actor in the world at some point. So he's had a very successful career. And that's why I wonder if this is a publicity stunt, because she's irrelevant. Like, she's just gone. She's obsolete. She's collecting royalty checks only. So anyway, guys, that's it for today. I love your support. Thank you. And I ask that you share my work with people so that I can get more supporters. And in the meantime, enjoy your evening. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you all soon. Take care. Good night and goodbye.